Okay, so Dr. Sean, you did follow up with the personal injury attorney lunch and learn with our presentation today, right?
Yes.
So you got attorney. And you had this attorney you said you had worked with once or twice in the past. They referred one or two cases to you.
Yep. We've had 3 cases with them.
And how did the relationship start?
Showed up dressed nice, new office in town. I, heard they just opened a satellite office. So went in, introduced myself, said, "Hey, I'm looking to work with more, good attorneys that know what they're doing." And we struck up a relationship. He said, "Yeah, my head office likes to refer to one medical office predominantly for cases, but I'm not thrilled about them. So I'm going to send you some cases and, see what you can do for us. See
Okay.
if it's a good fit."
So let's do this. Let's go. What was the result? Then let's come back and walk through how we got to the result. So at the end of the presentation, how did he feel about all that material? Had he knew of it before? Was he getting it before? Was he familiar with it before? How did he feel about all the material when we were done?
There were some key things that he was not familiar with. Number one, you went over the MRI slices, the updates on the 3 to 4 inch or 3 to 4 millimeter versus the 2 millimeter slices with no gap. That made him think, oh, shoot, I'm probably missing that on some cases now that I know that. And he asked me questions afterwards about it, about, more detailed, how do I get this done? What does that look like? What's the time frame? And he also had no idea what pathological muscle firing was with the, assessing that with the dynarom, and had no experience. He said he probably had, a handful, 3 to 5 in all of his years as an attorney for ligament stress, injury testing.
And that's what, being attorney for 5, 10, 20 years. How many years was he an attorney? Personal injury attorney?
I would say 10 to 15.
15 years, 3 cases. That tells you how little documentation he's getting from the doctors. And then how about the mild concussion documentation?
He was taking notes when you were talking about that, about the blood tests,
Yeah,
some of that updated information.
okay. And so his overall response when we finished, what happened to his perception, his conscious perception of value before the presentation versus after?
Oh, it went from like, oh, I had no idea, to kind of I think he was thinking like, oh crap, like this might be why I'm having, problems.
Right. Now, remember I share with you all the time, I say the attorneys are in a state of unconscious competence. They don't even know what they don't know. Remember we
Right.
talked about that? And the presentation literally takes them from a state of unconscious competence where they don't know what they don't know and they don't value you very much to now you're tremendous. How much more value do you have now with that attorney after that presentation?
Oh, just exponentially increased.
Yeah. So, and matter of fact, you told me he wants to do what with the referrals now?
He wants to potentially take our case audits that we offer to do for him, take that information on what's being missed, go to the head office or whoever's making the decisions on the referrals and be like, look, the office that you guys want to send cases to, they're not getting these categories. I want to send more patients to this office that actually knows what they're doing.
So he's not the decision maker, but he's trying to take the information we just shared in the presentation to his boss decision maker to get him to refer to you now.
Correct.
How'd that make you feel?
Felt great.
Pretty, yeah.
Yeah,
Now, would you have been able to do any of that without taking my course?
absolutely not.
Yeah. Did you
No,
even
very,
know
very
all
low
of
level.
this? Did you even know all of this material prior to taking my course?
I knew, let's say 15%, 20%.
15%. Right. So you finish with the presentation. So at the end of that presentation, let's walk through. We went into, let me go and see if he, in some of these topics, was he familiar with the percentages of the different types of injuries? Was he familiar with that?
Are you talking about like hybrid, subjective, like those type?
No, the different injuries, the percentages of whether it's a disc injury or a mild concussion, or was he familiar with, or did he comment on that at all?
He did not comment on that.
Okay. Did he comment on anything about the 7 minimum categories that determine the strength of the case?
No, he did not comment on that.
Is that right? I'm surprised because that directly impacts them.
Yeah, I didn't have a ton of time to talk to him afterwards. Um, so I'm gonna follow up more with him. So
Okay.
so I he was like, can you get me the outline? Like, can you get what we were talking about today? Because like I wanna have that if it's
So
possible.
he was overwhelmed. He wanted to see it again.
Yeah,
He wanted the recording.
yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
He was like, can I get that information if it's available?
Yeah. Okay. So that's good. So basically, yeah, that's good. In other words, we created way more value than he even anticipated. So the 7 minimum categories, how about the 4 injury awards? You say anything about the potential 4 injury awards based on the doctor's documentation? Not necessarily.
Uh, Kind of indirectly, but not a specific one of those.
How about when I went into how to convert the doctor's documentation into the 4 injury awards? Did he have any insights into that?
Well, he was taking notes during that part, and he was like, hmm,
Yeah.
and so it definitely got him thinking when you kept mentioning that we want to be objective and we want to go along the AMA guides. It's not we don't want to go into a trial or deposit with a doctor's opinion or
Yeah.
someone's opinion, and it's like these are formulas that you can easily explain to a
All right.
jury.
Right. So he's been in practice 10, 15 years. And how much of this, all this information would you suggest that he didn't even know that, we flipped all the light switch, that he didn't even know and he'd been practicing 15 years? What percentage would you say he probably knew of all this information versus he did versus how he communicated with you?
Oh, for the diagnostics, it would 20%.
He knew or didn't know?
He probably knew about 20 to 25% of the
20,
diagnostics.
20%. So
Yeah.
the vast majority didn't even know.
Yeah.
And then he really didn't, it sounds like he really didn't have time to comment. I moved pretty fast, didn't I?
Yeah.
So I didn't leave a lot of time for discussion, but I moved pretty fast and covered a lot of topics fast. So I wouldn't have left a lot of time for the interaction. But anyway, that's the response you got at the end. So he went from not even in 15 years in practice, knowing only about, turns out about 20% of the material, all the material he doesn't know, making all those comments. And now he wants the recording and the outline and all the information. Did he ever ask you for any information prior to me doing this presentation?
Nope.
No. See,
He's like, man, I need to stop by your office and see things. But it's like I think this was kind of like, okay, this guy's he's a player. He's not just some Joe Schmo chiropractor
right.
at this point.
In other words, we took his consciousness level from unconscious incompetence, not valuing chiropractors very much at all. Okay, kind of a needed nuisance, to how much value at the end of that presentation we go from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence, how much he did not know, but what's most importantly, not only how much he did not know, what did we do to his motivation now? In other words, he didn't just go, oh, that's good stuff, go on your way. He didn't say that, did he?
No,
We increased his pain motivation. Now, did he say anything when I showed how much money the average attorney's losing with just 3 cases with a doctor with bad documentation?
he didn't. He was quiet during that time. I was kind of wondering what he was thinking, whether
And
you
you
know
didn't bring it out? You didn't say, well, how many cases do you have a month?
since yeah, he has I think he has about 10 cases a month on average.
But you didn't personally push it besides me just addressing it.
You were going at a pace I didn't want him to miss
Okay, I got you.
the key points of what you're talking about during that time.
Gotcha.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna if there's
Yeah.
time, I'm gonna talk to him more about that at the end.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And then Because I easily showed how in that sample, how attorneys are losing little under $300,000 with just 3 cases. With
Yeah,
all
yeah,
documentation that's not being done.
and
So,
he really he was kind of like, oh wow, like you know, you took a no disc injury up to 100 and whatever $10,000 policy limit. Like that story really kind of drove it
and
home
we
for
actually
sure.
showed how.
Yeah,
It wasn't just me pie in the sky saying it.
yeah,
So we went through, and of course, that was part of the formula, breaking down how to convert the case into 4 injury awards, where 1 injury award didn't total $110,000. All 4 of them totaled $110,000. So was he familiar with that?
I didn't get to talk to him about
Yeah,
that.
because a lot of attorneys aren't. They're
Yeah,
just familiar with like medicals and prognosis, pain and suffering, and
yeah.
not.
I don't think he really was because he was like he was writing a lot of notes during that part.
Yeah. Okay. So you did the lunch and learn, and you said somebody else was there as assistant.
Yeah,
Did they say anything?
no, she didn't.
Okay. And she wasn't an attorney. She was just like an
Yeah,
administrative assistant.
right.
Okay. So, and so it all wraps up, finishes up, and what kind, so we finish with the presentation, and what kind of comments does he make?
He was like, wow, like thank you so much for doing this. This definitely, you know, got me thinking about, you know, I'm gonna look. And he's like, I've got like this and this and this. I think I'm gonna have you look that over because yeah, this stuff could be missed.
And what just happened to him wanting to refer you clients?
Oh, it's gonna make him feel much more comfortable
Well,
than
he just told you what? He just told you what about referring you clients?
that he wants to.
Yeah, he wants to move them from the other Clinton over to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would that have happened without that presentation? No. Would that have happened without your training, the training we gave you? No.
I mean, I wouldn't have had it all concise and together, you know,
Yeah.
that way that you bring up.
In your documentation prior to taking us, when you first did his first case, you probably didn't have 70-80% of the documentation after you learned how to document, did you? You just were doing the normal crappy case with the first one he sent you, weren't you? Before you joined me?
Um, I believe I was already working with you at that point,
Okay.
but the whole marketing side of things was not
But
it
you
was
were
not
able,
my
so you were
focus.
able to include a lot of our documentation into the very first case they sent you.
Yeah, I was probably at a point to where I could do 50% of what was
Okay.
recommended
Can you
because
see
I
how
was
much
still
trouble?
learning.
Can you see how much trouble you'd be in if he sent you over the one to test you out and you didn't even know any of that documentation?
Oh yeah, I'd be like, oh, well, he's gonna, you know,
It'd be over. He'd
yeah.
be like you don't do anything better than what we're getting. Yeah. This makes a big difference. See how this look how much potential revenue difference this could make. If you're talking only 1 or 2 cases a month, and your average case is maybe say 5, you're in Florida, say $5,000, 2 cases, 10,000, 110,000 over a year. And then let's say you go 10 years, you're talking about over $1 million in referrals from one presentation, one relationship.
Yeah, it could end up being that.
Yeah. And you already know it's going to go bigger than that as soon as you start doing all the documentation first cases.
Yeah.
Because how many people know how to put all that together, what we just put together in that presentation? How many, you've been a chiropractor for 5 years. How many chiropractors do you know that documentation and how we put it together?
Oh, I don't know of anyone I could call on and say, hey, can you help me with this?
Right. Yeah. All right. Any other comments about the presentation? So how did it go for you? How do you feel it went for you?
It's great. I mean, for a minimal amount of effort, you know, we just had to plan it out. And I mean, it wasn't, they were receptive. So we went over and yeah, the relationship's just getting better from there, from what I can see.
Well, you know, the big kicker in all this,
What's that?
you didn't even do the presentation.
No.
You got the benefit of the authority, the confidence, and the referrals just from knowing the information from me, but I actually did the presentation. You didn't even do the presentation and you got the benefit of it.
Yeah, I was able to third party it, and it wasn't like, he still looked at me as having authority after that. That was cool.
Yeah. 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 And I say it all the time. It's just like McDonald's, once you buy into McDonald's, you go to any McDonald's and they're the same. So you're kind of like the McDonald's you're like the McDonald's of our car injury doctor network providers. He just assumed, and of course, the language now. It's not like you don't know everything. You know the language, you know the documentation. So you know what to say and how to say it along with and after and before the presentation. So,
Right.
but yeah, I find it interesting that I create millions of dollars referrals for clients and they don't even do the presentation. They literally just do what you did. They show up, introduce themselves. We tell them the bullet points, like we told you the bullet points to say. Set up the presentation, do the lunch and learn. Now imagine doing this once a month with a different attorney. Where,
Oh,
where, where are you going to be 1 year later after you've done this presentation, after I've done the presentation to 12 different attorneys for you?
yeah, I'd have to have more hours, maybe hire an associate at that point. Yeah, if it's one a month.
That's pretty strong.
Yeah.
It's pretty strong. All right. Well, that's exactly how it works. You get the target attorney, you line up the presentation. The presentation totally shifts their consciousness from unconscious incompetence where they don't even think they know you, don't value you. And that's why they ask you to cut your bill and you send me, I'll send you one. You think he's ever going to tell you now, well, you send me one. Did he say that? He goes, well, if you send me one, I'll send you one. Did he say that to you after the presentation? Or did he
No.
just say, hell, I'm going to try to get my boss to get all of my cases over to you?
Yep. No, no one for one talk.
He didn't talk like that after the presentation, did he?
No.
Yeah, that's how it works. And before we did all this, remember I told you that was going to happen? I said, we're totally going to shift their consciousness. They're going to stop asking you to cut your bill. You think he's worried about him asking you to cut your bill right now?
No.
He just wants good documentation to stop losing a lot of money.
Right.
It's not even on his mind that you send him one, I'll send you one. He's trying to figure out how to get all of his clients to you now. That's what the presentation does. It establishes need, it creates awareness authority, establishes need, and makes you the boss. You're the only one that can do that because of how it was all put together. It's fantastic. These presentations are fantastic. And by the way, how much money did it cost you? How much money did you spend for that to happen? What was your
$45.
45 bucks for your lunch?
Yeah.
Would I spend 45 bucks on a presentation once a month after 12 months have 12 attorneys referring me 1, 2, or 3 clients a month? You're talking about $1 million increase a year later. Are you aware of that?
It could be. Yeah.
That was one attorney that just is going to take you to 100. You get 10 attorneys that refer you 1, 2, or 3, you're over $1 million. Just like that. Just from what little you did, a lunch and learn, and somebody else did the presentation for you. A year later, you're over $1 million in personal injury referrals. You just started it today. You just started the process of going over 100,000 today. You saw it happen right in front of your eyes, did you not?
Yeah.
One last question, by the way. At what point did you notice, because there's always a point that when I do these presentations, the attorneys straighten up. It's no longer joking matter anymore, and they're straighten up and they realize they're screwed if they don't know this. Did you notice his demeanor and when he straightened up and he started taking it serious?
Good question. I think I think after you got through the objectives and you started linking it back to the injury awards, I think
Okay.
at that point he I would probably say that was probably the where it started making more sense.
The
Is
awareness
like,
kicked in.
mhm,
Yeah, usually I found after about 15, no more than 20 minutes when I give a presentation, they're no longer joking and talking to their buddy. They go, oh shit, this is big stuff. I better pay attention. I don't know it.
mhm.
It's usually about within 15 to 20 minutes. That's usually when it happens. And it is, it's fantastic stuff. It's great documentation, great way to deliver it. And how much competition do you have? How many other chiropractors know this?
Oh, no one in my town.
Nobody. It's wide open. It's just getting to the attorneys and then shifting their consciousness. Because right now, look at how many attorneys out there are like him in your area that are like him, that didn't even recognize you as an authority, didn't recognize your value. And look how quickly that changed in one presentation. And all the other attorneys in your community are in that exact same situation right now, ready to be flipped, wide open. Can you see how an advertisement will not have done what we just did?
Not at all. Yeah, wouldn't.
No, pay-per-click can't do what we just did.
Yeah, yeah. My question is, is there something we do different for those attorneys that just aren't responsive yet, or do we just
Oh yeah, we
stick
covered that. No, we
we
covered.
just stick with the system,
Yeah, you
just
stick
keep
with,
at it?
yeah, you stick with the system. Remember, it depends on the level of the attorney. The type C attorneys are easy, they're easier to access. The B attorneys aren't, they're more ingrained. They take a lot more contacts and repetition. And the A attorneys take a tremendous amount because they got deep roots, deep information. So it totally depends on the attorney you're going after. How many barriers do you got to overcome to get them to pay attention to you to give the presentation? But as soon as the presentation's given, it flipped. It flipped in 60 minutes. His whole attitude flipped, did it not?
Yeah.
So yeah, it depends on the type of attorney, how many contacts it takes and barriers it takes to get through to them. Some, you go after the big ones, it takes a lot more. You go after the low ones, it doesn't take much at all. That's it. But it happens, as soon as that presentation happens, the switch flips, no matter which one it is, it flips right at the end of that, right at that presentation. It totally shifts the consciousness level. It's amazing. When they go from unconscious incompetence, no, they don't see you as valued, they don't give you authority, and then it slowly starts kicking in, kicking in, kicking in. It's like one thing after another kept coming after them, did it not? I mean, how many? I went through 21 different slides in 60 minutes. And all of those slides were stacked with information. So, I mean, we were going through those at a pretty rapid pace, were we not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you weren't going to fall asleep listening to that. It was like, you're moving. You better pay attention and stay away. Like you even said, you didn't want to jump in because how fast we were moving.
Yeah. I
So,
was like, oh, he's probably gonna miss this if I start asking him a bunch of questions. Yeah.
yeah. And he would have. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. But just like that. And then you just follow up. All you got to do is follow up with everything we taught you. You're good to go. Go to the next one. Same, and then go to the next, and then just follow up with everything we taught you and be consistent with everything we taught you. Good to go.